I do this every time. There we go, removed it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hacktoberfest Help Desk. My name is Joe, and I'm the community manager here at Raise.dev. This is our last show of the day of Thursday, the 8th, I think it is. If you tuned into our earlier shows, thank you so much. If this is your first time, welcome. Hello. Let me tell you what I've got going on here. The Hacktoberfest Help Desk is a resource for you this Hacktoberfest to help you with all of your Hacktoberfest questions. We are here to help you make your first contributions, to help you get started on the contribution that you're stuck with. Whether you have questions big or small, you can drop them in chat. We're here to help. And we sometimes have special things going on, which is what we've got going on this episode right now. If you do have questions that you want help with, maybe they're a particular issue that you're stuck on or an error message you're getting, the best way to get help with those questions is to submit them to us at the help desk at raise.dev/Hacktoberfest. When you submit your questions to that site, we look at them, we find a guest on our show that will be able to help you with those, and then we review them right here live on the show. And we send you an email when we're going to do that. And if you can't make it here live, we'll send you the recording afterwards as well. So you can submit your questions to raise.dev Hacktoberfest. If you want a clearer walkthrough of how to do that, you can go to our video, you can go to our Twitch channel, go to the videos, look at the highlights. And there's a lovely little highlight of me walking through how to fill out that form. It's good stuff. You can find out how to submit your questions right there. This is the end of our Thursday schedule, but we are back 3 times a day all throughout October. So we'll be back tomorrow. You can find our schedule at twitch.tv RaiseDev's schedule. That schedule is updated every weekend. So right now it's showing the schedule for this week still. So ignore all of it up until today. But the schedule for tomorrow is accurate. So you'll be able to hear, you'll be able to see what's coming up tomorrow. At the end of the show, I'll run you through what we've got going on tomorrow as well. We have 3 more very special guests tomorrow. It's a very exciting day tomorrow as well. And I'm also super pumped to put up the schedule for next week. It's going to be a big one. So one more thing before I introduce our guest for the day and we kick off. Who are Raise.dev? Why are we doing this? Why is there a shouty man screaming at you over the Twitches? We are a service to help you level up your developer career, whether you're looking for your first job, your second job, you're trying to career change, you're trying to get promotion, whatever it is. We have expert coaches ready and waiting to help you out, and we are completely free during early access. So we're brand new. We launched last week. We've now a whole 9 days old. And so you can go to raise.dev and sign up to get help from our coaches. So that's everything from me for now. Let's add in our guest and kick off the show. Please welcome Shana to the stream, everyone. Hey, Shana.
Hello. Hey, Joe. How's it going?
It's good. We're getting there. I managed to not stumble over any words in the intro, so that's always
fun.
How are you?
Impressive. Yeah, I am doing fantastic. Yeah, it's a little, it's a midday over here in Seattle, right. So a lot chiller.
Nice. Awesome. So would you like to introduce yourself to the folks, let people know what you do, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Shana Matthews. I work at Microsoft. Technically my title is a program manager, but I do a lot of stuff in developer advocacy. I generally just have a good time. I'm focused at Microsoft on beginners. So I think a lot, especially about beginners and about the cloud. So how do we get people who are new to programming or new to data science or any of those technology fields? How do we get them ramped up and know what they're doing? And then how do we make it easy for them to use our tools? How do we make it easy for them to understand like the cloud, Visual Studio, all of that stuff?
Well, that sounds like a perfect fit for this here channel. So today, I believe you brought some special code for us that we're going to be looking in.
Yeah.
But before that, there was something. I did have something I had to do. Folks, warning in advance. Please post your questions in chat. We're very happy to answer them as we go along. If you want to post or share a link, please let me know. Just tag me in the chat at RaiseDevs, and then I can make sure our modbot doesn't ban you for sharing links. If you just post a link without letting us know, our modbot will put you in the corner. So please give me a heads up. So yeah, first of all, I guess so we're going to be looking at some C code that you wrote a while ago back in school. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think it'd be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, yeah. I was just gonna say, yeah. I think we're gonna talk about a day in the life, so I'd be happy to tell everyone about what I do at Microsoft, how I got here, what my background is. So I'm happy to share all of that good stuff. And then, yes, I have a project that I pulled off the very, very old shelves back when I was, I think, like a sophomore in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some of the like very first C code I ever wrote. And I've never been a professional C dev, so I'm by no means an expert at like what makes good or bad C code. But when I've looked back at it now, there's some really obvious things that I'm like, why did I do that? Or like, oh, I know why I did that, but I shouldn't have.
Yes, that'll be super great time. So I guess a good place to start talking about like back in time writing code as a sophomore. Like, is that where your career? I guess you studied computer science and went straight from there into
I did. Yeah. I was not the person who like started coding when I was a little kid or like started coding or did anything with code really before college even. I had no idea that I would go towards technology. I was like one of those classic like math nerd kids. Like I liked math. I was like, science is good and math and stuff. So I figured when I went to college, I probably wanted to major in something engineering-y, but I actually declared like chemical engineering as my major. I quickly like realized interesting. What that was.
It's quite the change.
It's quite the change. Yeah, as I realized what that was and what they do. And I figured that wasn't for me, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea.
Fantastic.
Anyway,
So on to, I guess, like, so I'm really excited to hear about actually like the day in your life at work, because one of the things we're trying to do here on the show is like show people the possibilities for tech and dev adjacent careers. And as someone who has also had the program manager title, people have always been very confused about like what that actually entails. So what does your day-to-day work look like?
Yeah, so I am a program manager in our developer relations organization. My team, as I said, focuses on beginners. We focus on students, like students/beginners, people who are new, basically. So my day-to-day involves kind of two main aspects. I would say there's two main aspects of my job. I do inward focus things. So like I try to help other people at Microsoft do the right thing. And I try to help people who are the audience, the beginners, the students. I help them by like helping with tutorials and documentation, or like actually going out and doing things like speaking at conferences or going to hackathons, virtual hackathons now in this day and age. I love that balance because I used to be a software engineer at Microsoft. That's where I started. And I was the person on my team who like, I kept saying like, why aren't we made APIs for a map control. So we made APIs and I was like, why don't we have a tag on Stack Overflow? Like, why don't we have anyone like answering questions out there? So I've just always been really interested in like people who are using what we do and how, like, are they having a good time? Are they confused? How do we make it better? So I transitioned into this role, and it happens to have the title program manager. But doing stuff where I interact with people who are actually using our stuff and like understand how they're using it, like what's confusing. I enjoy that so much. I enjoy talking to people.
So our show a little bit earlier before like our midday show, we had Cybrand, who's actually a C++ developer advocate at Microsoft.
Oh my gosh,
and they're very focused on, I guess, like Microsoft's tooling around C++. I gather you're more focused on Azure, is that correct? And like the Azure
products?
Right.
Yeah, so my organization sits within the Azure engineering organization. So especially when I first started this role, we like worked a lot with Azure product engineers. Basically, they weren't thinking about beginners very much at all.
Which sounds like a cloud platform to me, to be fair. Like,
absolutely, exactly. So they, it didn't even occur to them really that they should be trying to make their products like intuitive for people who didn't really know what this stuff was. So I got to work on really cool stuff with them, like improving like basic things like the VM experience. So when people want to create a new VM, there may be a Windows user. How do they make SSH keys? What if they don't know what an SSH key is? How do we kind of help them get over those hurdles and they don't need to know all of this stuff and they can just be successful?
That's such a good example. SSH keys are one of the things. Like there was a while ago on Twitter, like a couple of years ago now, there was like this big trend where all the developers were like posting the thing they have to do every day that they have to Google every time. And like one of those for me is definitely like every time I have to generate like an SSH key, like to authenticate with GitHub or something, I'm always like, okay, where is that guide? I cannot ever remember how to do this. Yeah, that's a great one to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of representative of some of the other kind of work that I do at my job, which is really rewarding too, because it kind of takes, I feel like, the audience centric and understanding the users. It takes it back to the product teams who are already like, they're already thinking about customers, but it's like showing them a new way and just giving them more insights and help them make the product better.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, there you go, folks. If you're looking to help make developer products better, program manager, developer advocacy path maybe for you. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about this code report for us today. So it was done in your university. I'm guessing it was an exercise piece of coursework, something like that?
Yeah, it was like, it was our first ever. So I took our like courses, our intro to CS courses. I think we had like 2 in Java, and then we had 1 in C/C++. And it just kind of throws you into the deep end there with C and C++. Like, congrats, memory management pointers. Like, here you go. And it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. It was very confusing. So the project that we have today is my first ever like proper C project. It's all in C. So it was an assignment. I think I got an okay grade on it. I'm not sure.
So I wanted to like touch on this because as well, like you continued to hi, Christopher's in the chat.
Hi, Christopher.
You continued to be interested in C like throughout your engineering career, like C and Python are your interests, am I correct?
So after like struggling actually really hard in the C/C++ course, I'm like a masochist. Like I was like, I need to get better at this. This is really important to me. So when I looked out for like my first full-time developer job, I actually specifically asked, I was like, I want to make sure I'm doing this in a language I'm like not super comfortable in, which was C++. So my first role at Microsoft was doing C++ development of APIs. So not C. I haven't, like I said, I haven't done like professional development in C, but I certainly know quite a bit more than I did.
A C dialect. It's adjacent. It's all it's C on hard mode in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah, awesome, cool. So should we get into it? Do you want to try? Are you ready for me to add your screen up?
Sure. Yes. Let me just sort things out.
Let me know when it's good to go.
Yeah, no, you're good. Go for it.
Cool. Awesome. Right. Okay, which was weird having the control of when someone else's screen is shown.
Cool. I just wanted to.
Oh, do we sell merch? Sorry, 1 second. That's a really interesting question. Angel, do we sell merch? No. Would you like us to? Would you buy merch if we sold merch? What merch would you like? I've never seen that question before. I'm very intrigued. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Anyway, okay, so this is the project. The project is it's like sound editing. It's editing sound files. Cool. Which I just like, my mind was blown when I started doing this project, because you like, to be able to do this, you actually like have to know a little bit about how these files are constructed. So all these like binary files that you have on your computer, like I feel like as a user, you just kind of take them for granted, or you don't think about like what's actually in those files. How are they formatted? So this project made you at least understand one file type and know like, how is this file formatted? Like what data is in the file? And then you just like go through that actual data in this binary file and like mess with it. And I'm assuming
that's a WAV in this case.
No, it's actually, I don't know how you really say it. AIFF? I don't know like what the
I've never heard of it. I have no idea. AIFF is, I guess it's like, I've heard of TIFF. I guess it's adjacent. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that much about it either. I'm certainly not any kind of like sound file expert, but yeah, this AIFF file was chosen because it is a standard and it's like simpler than a lot of other sound files. So it's a little bit easier for noobs. So here's the project. When I was pulling it together, I had quite a few thoughts about what I did here and what I would do better. So I took some
That's such a gentle way of putting that. I had some thoughts.
I think one of the most really relevant things for anyone, regardless of if you're a C developer or any other language, is like how you do your development. So I think that's a really interesting thing to talk about. I wrote a list of like things I would like, gently critique now from a place of more experience. And one of them is definitely how I was doing my development. So what I have here is nothing like how I was doing my development back when I was in college. this is Visual Studio Code, which it's great. If you haven't, I'm sure everyone who's watching, you already know what it is. It's fantastic.
Well, actually, we had a great question from Angel, which is if you're coming from Sublime Text, how big is the learning code for Visual Studio Code? Learning curve. I think they're pretty similar, right?
Yeah. No, me too. Yeah. So I didn't use Sublime. I was actually going to say I used Notepad++ for my C development when I was in college, which is like a standard thing to do. Honestly, that's not weird. Yeah.
People still use Notepad++ very heavily today in the C ecosystem. I've got a couple of friends who write C++ for their day job at like robotics firms and stuff, and they're all Notepad++ people.
Yeah, it's honestly just very normal to do that. But if I were going back and I were doing this again, knowing what I know, I would 100% use Visual Studio Code. And I would do it with a thing called Windows Subsystem for Linux, which I won't talk about too much. But basically, it's like you're running with what I'm doing, I'm basically running a Linux virtual machine on my Windows computer. This is a Windows computer. So like you don't have to deal with any Windows weirdness of doing C or C++ development.
I mean, I know you said you don't want to talk about that too much, but we could come back to this later because Windows, like WSL is like really, the extent to which it made my development life so much easier is unreal. Like it's just so great. Like
totally. If the chat is interested, I'm so happy to talk more about WSL. Anyway, so what I was doing back in the day was using Notepad++ and this like Notepad++ extension to like SCP files back and forth between this like Linux server and my computer that I was working on, which again was a Windows PC back in the day. And it was
like a pretty sophisticated setup.
It was terrible. It was terrible though, because it would do like weird stuff. Like if your internet got wonky while you were like trying to copy your files, like buy all of your changes. They're gone. And it was awful. It was like, I guess it's better than it could have been, but
I mean, I'm almost certain when I was doing C in university that I was writing like my C files on like my own Windows machine and then USB sticking them over to the lab machines. Like I'm fairly certain that's what I was doing.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people around me did too. Yeah, so I tried to be a little like one step more sophisticated than that, but it was still pretty rough. And so this is so much smoother. The other thing I'll point out is like I was not using Get. I didn't use Get. I didn't want to. I didn't know what it was. So finally, I had to like find this. I had this like stored in like Box or something, like some like file cloud provider thing. And I had to like dig out all these zip files. So 100% put it on Git. I put it on GitHub. I have this on GitHub now. So I did it.
You've added it today, so we don't get to see like look. So we looked at some old code from our first guest this morning, and it was like last edited 8 years ago or something.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so it looks really recent, but no, it's not. Yes, those are the biggest two. Like, oh my gosh, wow, game changer things. The other thing about my like Notepad++ setup, I don't know if I was like just clueless when I was doing it, but I literally didn't debug. I didn't know how to debug. There was no way of debugging. Sure. I didn't know what I was doing. So I just didn't do it. It was like console logs for everything. That's all I had.
I mean, that's still how I code now, to be fair. Love a good code. You go in with the best intentions, but sometimes you're just like, sod it, console log print, please.
There's nothing wrong with console log debugging. Like, it just shouldn't be the only thing you have. It shouldn't be the only tool in your toolbox.
That's fair,
So like putting this in VS Code and actually having like, like, oh my gosh, I can actually like F12 and see definitions of things. Game changer. Rather than
I don't think I do that. VS Code, I'm gonna learn so much from VS Code.
Well, so you have to have the extension for whatever language you're in. But it works great. It works great for C and C++. So when I was pulling this back out, I was just like, holy cow, I would have been so much better. I would have been so much better at this. I would have just had.
Well, I think it is worth mentioning, like VS Code, like I guess compared to Notepad++ at least, is relatively recent, right? A lot of these tools are very new.
Totally. Like this didn't exist when I was in college. So if you're in college or you're learning programming right now, consider yourself very lucky. I'll be like the old grandpa, like back in my day.
I would. You don't have to use the version of Sublime that's constantly got a pop-up telling you to buy it, and you won't because you're a student.
I remember that. Oh, what a throwback. I totally remember that. Sublime was like I feel like, I don't know if it had just came out when I was in college, but it was like the cool thing.
It was the
like
hotness for such a long time.
Thing. Yeah, for
and
sure.
The way the little logo looked compared to like all the other like old tech searches.
Yes.
Love that orange S.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was awesome. Sorry, I'm seeing a lot of good stuff in the chat. Yeah, I appreciate it. Angel Fire Ends. I have a Windows machine. I miss my MacBook Pro. You assume because of your okay, you miss your Mac because of your interest in Linux.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Angel is scared to install Linux on their machine, so that's why I was saying we should take a swing by WSL at some point, because that would be a far less scary way to get the Linux utilities they want.
It's absolutely much less scary. Yeah. Do you want me to go through that quickly now?
If you want to, whichever order works. We can come back later. We can do it now. Whatever works for you.
Yeah. I'm happy to just do it quickly now, and if people are interested, cool. I pulled up a bunch of links. Totally. Here's the extension for C++ in VS Code that I mentioned. Okay, let's go to WSL. Look at that. Cool. I like it so much. It's
you know the shortcut.
Yeah. So as I was saying, WSL is basically a way of using Linux on your Windows machine. So I think it's super good. Like I just love it. First of all, because I like Linux too. I had a Windows machine in college, but my first computer that I ever devved on was a Mac. And I used a Mac for a very long time. And I grew up, quote unquote, I don't know, on Bash, right? Using Bash stuff. And then when I got to Windows, I was like, what is happening? I don't understand. It was really confusing. I work at Microsoft and stuff, but I think anyone really will admit that Linux just does a lot of things right. They just do a lot of things right. For sure. And so I do pretty much any dev work now, I do on Linux through Windows Subsystem for Linux. So WSL, it's a way to use Linux on your machine. There's a couple versions like WSL1, WSL2. WSL2, if possible for your machine, your Windows machine has to be at a certain build. It has to be up to date.
It's no longer inside. It's now out of insider builds, right? You can just install it now. Cool.
Yep. That's right. If you don't have to be on any kind of insider build, you just have to have your machine all the way up to date with the standard updates. So you can use WSL2, which I recommend, which means you're using literally a full Linux VM on your computer, but you can access it super easily. You access it by just going and searching for your distro. Oops, open on the other screen.
It's so funny just seeing open Windows search Ubuntu. Find me a whole Linux distribution on my Windows machine.
And sorry, this is really funky because I don't use it like this. I use it through a different terminal.
Windows terminal, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I do. So it's using fonts that aren't available here. But so there you go. That's my Linux virtual machine. And I don't need to know anything else about it. It just works.
And you don't need to partition your hard drive or do anything scary that might as you were saying, Angel, destroy the machine. That was a gift. It's just you just install it as if it's an app. Actually, it's even on the App Store, isn't it? When you choose your distribution, you go to the Windows Store and just
you literally get your distribution from the Windows Store. I can show that. So I use Ubuntu, but you can use you can literally use whatever Linux distribution you like. There's quite a few available in the actually, I'm not gonna rough.
I think Angel mentioned Kali, which is a security focused Linux distribution. Is that correct?
I don't know. Build a custom distro. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Here we go. There's a special link on this page that will show you all of the.
Yeah. I was about to say that was the speed of navigation of someone who comes to this page far too often.
I just love it. I don't know. Once Microsoft
Kali, that's right there. That's Angel. That's the one that Angel wanted. Perfect.
I'm not familiar with Kali. Angel, you should type in the chat what that is. I'm just not familiar with that distro. But so there's quite a few available literally just through the store, and you can have as many as you want on your Windows computer. If you're really, really cool, you can have whatever distro you want by side loading your own custom distro or your distro from wherever you've gotten it onto your WSL machine. So cool. It's just so cool.
That's super neat. And it's I've always had this problem of I've always had to have either a dual boot or I've got a Linux machine lying around somewhere and I have to have a Windows machine because you just can't give up. Like Linux is great for dev stuff, but there's like games and the Adobe suite and all this kind of nonsense. And now it's just like I can finally have one machine again for the first time in like my entire computing existence.
Yeah, exactly. And I have no hate for MacBooks at all. I think they're great, but I'm not upset anymore.
It doesn't feel like you're missing out, right? Like, which is a big, and especially for like accessibility. Like again, Macs, they're lovely, but they are super expensive, and like the fact that our industry for so long was kind of gated by like, hey, get a MacBook is not cool.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, it's much more accessible, and you can just do everything on your Windows machine now. Yeah, I feel like it was like Microsoft has totally turned a corner, and I'm so here for it.
And that message may have been only sponsored a little bit by the fact that the N key on my MacBook is just broken, and I'm very peeved by it.
Yeah, I have a MacBook too. Actually, I'll say this. I should have said this to you before we started the stream, but this machine like blue screened or green screened on me, like green because it's like that's what it. Yeah. Green is when you're on like a beta build, which I am, which I shouldn't be for streaming on this computer.
This is really reassuring. Keep going. I'll start lining up some backup content. That's fine.
I was gonna say I totally should have mentioned. So anyway, but I actually have my MacBook like down here just in case I have to like.
Cool. So I only have to vamp for a little bit if you.
Yeah, exactly. So if I just disappear, I'll be back, but with like worse lighting.
Nice. Excellent. Cool. It'll be fine, everyone. We're
and if that has to happen, actually, so there's something else really cool that I could talk about too. I'm not using it right here, but like developing in containers with VS Code. I set that up. So like I basically just set up a new container on the MacBook, which is why I put this on GitHub. So I could just like basically create a new container and clone this into it like automatically just through VS Code, which I don't know very much about containers. I'm going to be very honest. My container knowledge is limited.
I'm exactly in the same place. I'm like, I know enough Docker to download a Docker file on GitHub and hit run, right? That's all. That's as far as I care. I just want the app to run. Other than that, take it to someone who has DevOps in their Twitter bio. Like,
yeah, exactly. Same. So, but anyway, so it was super easy. So I think I can do all my demos and stuff on my MacBook too. With this, I think. Excellent. Just in case. But that's
for now,
we're
working. No green screens are appearing.
Cool.
Yeah, okay, so wonderful. That's a big difference. You're able to run Windows, Linux on the same machine, which must make your dev cycle a lot faster.
Yes. Yeah, it's way better. And using GitHub, much better. I can do like development on like wherever I want to. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
Cool.
And this, I think it's important to note as well. Sorry to interrupt you again. Important to note as well that this terminal here in VS Code, I'm guessing that's connected to your WSL terminal. Is that connected?
It is. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, this is. This is my WSL. So, so I was showing this too. This is Windows terminal in WSL. Oops. Actually. Yeah, this is where everything is.
Cool.
No.
This looks good on my screen, but if anyone in the chat, if you need us to bump the size or anything, do let us know. But it all looks great on mine. Yeah.
Yeah, I zoomed in the editor, but I didn't think of zooming in.
It looks fine. I mean, my screen is not overly big, and I'm able to read it. So, but if anyone needs us to bump it, just let us know. It's no problem.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, and this is a pro tip. I forgot. I was going to show this. You have VS Code installed on your Windows machine, and you want to use VS Code with your Linux thing, with Windows Subsystem for Linux. The easiest way to make that happen is just open code in your WSL. So this is my WSL, this is my Ubuntu, and you open code with this. That's how you do it. Pro tip. I was very confused for a long time.
Did you need to do anything special to get code on your path like that or anything? Or was it just on your path where it installs? Does it get auto detected? How does that work? Because that's also from WSL. So I'm guessing WSL was able to pick up Windows programs on your path.
Yes, it can. I'm trying to remember. I'm almost positive it configured it automatically. I think the first time I opened VS Code, so VS Code is using like a special extension to connect to WSL. And I'm pretty sure when I installed that extension, like the first time I used it, it asked me like, hey, do you want to add code to your path? And I said, yes, please. Cool. And I did that. The other pro tip I will show really quickly is Explorer. if you want to open, so the other really amazing thing about
this
WSL
solves such a problem for me.
is accessing your Windows files or your Linux files, like vice versa. So I like Bash. I like using Bash, but I've been like a Windows user for long enough that I just like to, I don't want to deal with all my files via the command line.
If I'm doing like bulk copy and paste, I still do it via
Explorer. Exactly. And I just love the beautiful world where you can do both. So I deal with all my files just through Explorer. So you can see, you can see a bunch of like random stuff. But this is all my, here, we can go to my desktop. Like, oh, there's nothing on my desktop. I'm too I hate having stuff on my desktop. Hopefully there's nothing weird in my downloads. These are all my downloads.
Excellent.
So this is stuff on my Windows PC. And another pro tip, I hope I get this right. Yes.
Hey.
This is how you access your Linux files. So if I wanted to like drag and drop like files between the two, you literally just drag and drop it here.
I've never been able to figure that out. Thank you.
Dude, here you go. Yeah.
So many of these streams are just like Joe is learning from people on stream. Actually, very excited.
No, I love it. Like, this is the kind of stuff like I really like unblocking people who are like stuck about really random things, because these are the exact things that I was like stuck about when I've been learning how to code, or I was doing this, I was doing that.
Part of the reason I struggled with this is, like, as you said, there's like WSL1, WSL2, and they kind of act differently in some key ways.
Yeah,
and, like,
they do. Yeah.
WSL2 is still like new enough where if you search for stuff, you get WSL1 answers. I have the same problem with GitHub Actions. Like, last year, GitHub Actions completely changed from what it used to be and what it is now. There's like completely different file formats and whatever. And still so often you end up with like the old actions. Like, no, this isn't what I need.
Sorry. No problem. Absolutely. Yeah, you're totally right. It can be incredibly frustrating. Anyway, so I was just going to show that this does in fact work. Nice. There you go. I just dragged something from my like Windows side of my computer downloads into my Ubuntu side of my computer. And then we could like look at it here too, if you wanted to. Oh, why did I do that? Whatever. Here, I'll show you here. There you go.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Oh, and cool. This is another, I'm so sorry. This is another really random thing. These zone identifier files are just like something to help WSL keep track of where things came from. You can delete them most of the time. It's not a big deal. Anyway, okay, that's it.
All good. Cool. Should we get into the C then?
Yeah.
I've stopped distracting you with WSL things.
No problem. That's okay. I mean, like, whatever is interesting. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, I want to just like highlight some things that I did right too. So we're not just hating on old Shana.
Sure.
So one thing that I did, I think I would do again. So I was using Make.
This is a big Make file too.
I know, it's giant. Like, we can get into that. I don't think this project is super well organized. But I did use Make. So Make is basically a tool that helps you compile and link your C code. And so this file is just basically manually listing a bunch of dependencies. So if I wanted, so everything over here is a command basically. So if I say make all, it's going to run these commands, and then these commands are all defined here. Right. So yeah, one thing I did right was doing this, and I actually think it's pretty clean. When I was looking back at this, I was like, actually, I think this is pretty clean. It makes sense. I think I compartmentalize things well. And the good thing about doing that, so Make is smart. So Make will know if I change this file, for example, convert data, but I don't change my other files, then like it will only build what it has to, only rebuild what it has to rebuild. Anyway, so I thought that was smart. If I were doing this again, like I might consider like doing something different. Like if I were going to use VS Code, I might consider using like some of the fancy stuff that it can do now to build stuff. But honestly, there's nothing wrong with Make. There's nothing wrong with Make. It works great. So props to Shana for that. Another thing I think I did well was splitting up my header and C files. This is a really standard thing to do, but like as a very noob, like it's not required, so you might not do it. Basically, the convention is to define all of your methods that you're writing or all your functions here, and then you like include them here. So you can do it where it works fine if you don't do that, but this is the standard, and I'm like, you know, happy that past Shana did that.
Why is that standard practice for?
Well, it's helpful for a couple of things. Like one really obvious way that it's helpful is that you can, if you have a really big project, and this project isn't really big, it's like kind of on the small medium side, you can much more easily just find out like what's available.
Right.
So if I were going to do this better, I would add in comments into here about what all of my stuff did, so that people checking it out or using it would know what my code does. I did put comments in my C files, which is good, but maybe not.
The comments,
maybe not exactly like the best.
I love that this loop is unnecessary comment that was just there.
Yeah, there's like a lot of those in here if you dig around.
Is there any like proper like this code is bad or fix this later comments in here?
I did. There was one somewhere, but I'm not sure I remember exactly where it was.
Oh, I love that little celebration. Oh, these are lovely comments. You had one up there. I was like, it's just one byte. That's so nuts.
One other thing. Another good thing I did was I made this README file. Go me.
What? I definitely wasn't making README files. What? Your course?
README files are good practice. I was like, I did that. Like,
so you weren't using Git, but you were making README files. I don't think I learned about README files before I learned about GitHub.
Yeah, and I obviously didn't really know what Git was, and so I put this in a doc.
I using text instead of Markdown as well.
Yeah. Just interesting. Yeah. But yeah, so I was gonna sorry. Sometimes I'm really dumb. I was like, I'm gonna make a joke about how like how unprofessional my README file is.
I was gonna say your TAs must have found that so cute, but they must be so like cold and used to these comments from students.
Probably. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so I was gonna make a really dumb joke about how you know I would be very professional in my README file, and I wouldn't make stupid jokes like this. But honestly, I probably still would make stupid.
It would be like an actual emoji rather than just like colon parent.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So I was actually being really, really awesome. So this program, I haven't showed anything.
Yeah, also we don't know what the program does yet. We got this off track.
Sorry. Oopsies.
It's the Thursday night, folks. It's fine. Or it's night for me. You've got no excuse.
Yeah, mummy. Okay, so let's take a step back and talk about a little bit what this does. So there's a few different things that this whole project does. It builds a bunch of different binaries, and each binary does its own small thing, which is great. A very Linuxy sort of thing, trying to like every little binary does its own thing. So again, that was a good job. I did a good job there. But so it does a lot of things. One of the things, the very most basic thing it does is if you give it a sound file, it will tell you some stuff about your file. So let's just try it. Please. Oh, am I in the wrong spot? Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, I gotta make it first. I forgot. I cleaned it.
Nice.
Okay. So I was also gonna say I ignored a bunch of warnings.
Right.
I wouldn't do that. These are all warnings.
Using like the version of GCC that this project was built with?
No, I'm not. That's another thing.
So some of these warnings also like may have not existed.
They're probably new. Yeah, I didn't do like the homework to double check, to like try it with the old version. Not that.
For sure. That would be wild. That's why I said that very tentatively.
Yeah. Yeah. So I bet a lot of these are new, but it's always good to manage like. Warnings are there for a reason, basically. Right. Okay, so let's just show something. So what this is doing, this is a sound info binary. So I am giving it a file through standard in with that little guy. And it's telling me some stuff about my file. So it can tell me the file format. If I put it through standard in, but if I gave it a file name, it'd tell me the file name. And it's telling me some fun facts, about my file. So I don't know that much about sound stuff, but I
recognize some of these words.
Yeah,
channels. I know what channels is about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can show another file too. Let's show. I think I only have like 2.
To the audio nerds in chat, we're
Please.
sorry.
If you know what this stuff means, share. I'd love to be informed. I probably looked it up back in the day,
Right. Yeah.
Totally lost it now. Yeah, so it can tell me a little bit about my file. Super basic. I can use SND SND sound convert.
Got it.
It's like I feel like maybe obvious, but I didn't just name these randomly, but I'm not saying I named them well either. Okay. Wait, what did I just do? Oh, I think I probably need to.
Oh, that's a really interesting scroll noise.
I thought it was supposed to. Oh, let's use it like in the dumb mode. So another thing I did with all of these was like give it a dumb mode.
Nice.
So like if you can't figure out what it's supposed to be doing, you can give it, please. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. That's much better.
Cool. Oh, nice. So it actually gives you like prompts and instructions on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, but I don't know why.
Sure, autocomplete. Picking it up.
So all this does is convert between one sound file type and another sound file type.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure the other sound file type, it's called CS229, which is a made-up sound file type.
I wonder what module this was for.
Yeah. Yeah, computer science 229. A classic. So now I should have a new file. And this like sound file type is not, we don't have any binaries like programs that exist that will play it, but all of the same data that's in the .aiff file is here. Right. So before what it did was print all of this out on standard out, and I didn't do anything smart with it. But this is like using it in simple mode. So
cool. We've
taken all of our data from our AIFF file and converted it into this other human readable sound file with no data loss.
Excellent.
There's some other ones. Sound cat, which is taking its name from cat, the bash CLI utility.
Right.
So concatenate. So if you give it a couple files, it'll put them together. Oh, I'm pretty sure I already ran this when I was like playing around. Yeah. So I ran this on my I have a. Oh wait, I turned off. Wait, one sec.
Yeah, I need to be quiet now for the sound to work, right?
I think so. Yeah. Hopefully this will work.
Hello.
Did that work? Did anyone hear that? Yeah? Good. Yeah. Okay. Chat, if that worked, let me know.
I got it. So,
yeah, so it took this the original file. I had 2 original files, hello, and this ZEP file. It just doubles it.
Hello.
Nice. Cool.
Okay, sorry. I this is probably everyone thinks this is really dumb.
Okay,
I think
hello
it's
again.
Cool.
No, that's super cool.
Yeah, and so one other sound cut doesn't work. I tried it; it still doesn't work.
I love this. Yeah, please don't test it. It doesn't work so hard. I don't want you to try. Please don't. Angel has confirmed that it did work. We did.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, you. Angel. Yeah, glad to hear it. But some of the coolest one is this sound show and sound edit. So. This is what I ran this on this is the sound edit file. I'll close it and start it again. So it looks like this. This is how you use it. You give it a file. I think this only works with the AIFF files. But so this is a waveform.
That's super neat. So
it's
there'll be a bump in here with a hello.
There will. Eventually we'll get through it.
I don't think I've ever seen an ASCII waveform before. That's pretty neat.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like
and
that.
What measures the numbers in milliseconds?
Sample. And I don't know what amount of time a sample is, but it's some kind of thing that's standard. Oh my gosh. It's really long. I'm sorry. I promise
this explains why there was a bit of a delay before we heard hello though. There it is. Yes. Thanks.
Yeah. So I think this also didn't work.
Right.
But in theory, it was supposed
Yeah.
to be like you can mark
Right.
what something you want to do with. So you could like, and then I could use X. It's gonna disappear.
Oh wow.
That's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can. I think you can see. I think
That's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can like actually edit your sound files.
Right.
And then.
And it's saying buffered, so that's because you cut it, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's like
Right.
what is in your buffer. So I like cut it. Yeah, and it's I could paste it somewhere.
That's super neat.
I can try to do. Okay, yeah, so I just pasted it right in here. Yeah, I guess I'll save this and maybe it'll work.
Let's see what happens.
I did such a small amount. You have to do like a ton for it to really be noticeable, I think. So I bet we won't be able to really hear.
Well, this is just the word hello, right? So maybe
it's just the word hello. Yeah. And I did it on my clean one, which like, oops, I was supposed to keep that in clean, but it's okay.
Hello.
Oh yeah, you can't really hear anything. Sorry, that's kind of boring.
It was super cool to see that done in ASCII. It's like ASCII Audacity. It's super cool.
Yeah, anyway, so I just got so like I just like nerded out really hard over this project, even though obviously I did.
And how long did this project take you?
This was like half a semester. So
it's very involved. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a lot actually. And it was funny because while I was working on it, like I got better and like knew more about C. So there are like parts of it that are like worse than others because I just didn't even know what I was doing, and then I knew what I was doing a little bit more, but didn't want to go back and like fix it.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, that's probably a sensible choice in terms of like getting it across the line.
Exactly.
We've all done that, like had that piece of coursework where you decide like, oh, it's due in 8 hours, but I'm going to rewrite it, and that's
yeah, exactly. So yeah, one interesting thing that I know I did differently than what I would do now, also, is I was terrified. I was scared of pointers. I was scared of malloc. I was scared of memory management. So like anywhere that I'm dealing with stuff, even like stuff that like probably should go on the heap, you should malloc this. I just put everything on this stack. So I didn't malloc anything.
I mean, I entirely respect it. That was the worst bit about doing C, and it's still like the thing that terrifies me about running into like learning Rust. I'm like, oh god, pointers are back. I didn't want this. Yeah.
Actually, so sorry, like thinking of all the million things I wanted to show. So I know Sai was on the channel earlier, and she does they do all these awesome explainers of different concepts. And one of my
this was such a good video.
Was this one? So I was gonna put a link in the chat to this.
Yeah, you totally can.
And hopefully this works.
I really hope the bot doesn't ban you.
Yeah, me too. I really hope I don't get banned. Please.
And yes, yes, it did. Perfect. As Shana said, Sai, who made this video, was on the show earlier. That's in our Twitch recordings, and they were also talking about C++.
yeah, and they know like a lot more than me, so props.
We didn't get into any code with Sai though, so this is like it's been our C day today.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like it's not there, especially in like the world of DevRel. There's not that many people talking about C and like C++. It's just not that like sexy anymore. Which I get it, but it makes me a little sad.
Yeah, we spoke about that a little bit. How like Sai is like the C++ developer advocate.
Yeah, exactly. And like the wild thing is like C++, especially, is still hugely popular. There's so many people using C++. So like I think there should be more people talking about it, but especially with like, yeah, exactly. And I don't even like JavaScript. If Christopher's still on, I'm sorry. I just don't like JavaScript. Yeah, anyway. I also found a diagram that I just being really cool.
This is wonderful.
If you guys want to talk about, I just wanted to show, like, in case people maybe weren't super familiar with what I was talking about, like mallocing things and stacks versus heaps. So, like, the super brief overview was like, malloc is how you like say, hey, I want some memory to mess with. Please give it to me. And you have to free that memory. Otherwise, you could run into strange issues and your program's probably going to crash. And I knew that. I knew enough to know that. but I didn't know enough how to like do it correctly. So instead, I just put everything on my stack, which is it was okay for this project because dealing with sound files and like the size of files I was dealing with, they're pretty small, so everything fit okay. Like we didn't run into an issue, but that does not scale at all. It's like a crazy thing. It's like a crazy nursing thing to do, really. When you're writing.
Do you remember if like the assessor commented on that at all, or they were just like, "This is
I don't think they did. I think I expected to get like like marks off or something. But I'm thinking back, I couldn't remember. It was forever ago. But I really don't think I got in any trouble. I did. So I was searching like, did I even use malloc once? Oh yeah, right here. I did. In fact, thank you very much. I used it twice. Twice in my like 20 files of code. What was this for? Oh yeah, so when I needed to make the ASCII representation, I'm pretty sure I remember trying to avoid mallocing this, but I couldn't. It didn't work with the server I was running on. When I tried to just put this on the stack, it like wasn't a fan. So I did actually have to do some real actual memory management.
I'm impressed you managed to avoid it to that extent, to be honest. That's a skill in itself. Like.
I guess so. So it's just it's a little embarrassing. I did it's pretty embarrassing. There's a lot of places here where you'll see me doing terrible practice stuff like that. Like this alone, very bad practice. It's a global variable, first of all, which is not necessarily wrong or bad in C. That's a valid thing to do, and there's some other examples where I'm doing that in a very valid way. This is not really a very valid way, and certainly just like saying that I'm gonna get a file name, and this is a file name from the user, so it could be any length. It could be any number of characters, but I basically said it's not going to be any more than 2,000.
Hedging your bet on 2,000.
And 2,000 is a lot of characters.
It is a lot of characters. It'd be an obscene file name.
Nothing bad happened. I didn't get any points off for doing that, even though it's really a stupid thing to do. And then I made it like a global variable because I didn't really know how exactly to pass this around between my different functions.
How would you pass it around between your functions now? Is there a way would you have made it like, would you have done that differently?
Yeah, if I were going to do this differently, I would absolutely have like, when, and I don't know exactly where it is, but when I get the actual file name from the user, I would have checked how long it was, and then I would have malloced a string for it. So I would have gotten myself some memory of whatever size I like. It could have been huge because I was getting my own memory for it. No big deal. And then I would have passed it around using pointers. I would have passed a pointer to that. Yeah, I'll pull up the little diagram just so I can be super clear. So, so I would have gotten some memory for it of the right size, which I would have been able to get. And then I would have made a pointer for it on the stack. And then I would have passed around that pointer in between my different functions. So like, just like, this is passing around a pointer to a string, which Charstar is how you do strings. So I would have passed around that pointer and then just dealt with that memory. And then the thing I think I was really scared of was when do I get rid of, when is it safe to get rid of that memory later? And it would have been when I was done, like it would have been at the end of my main, when I was done using it, when we like called all these functions and then all the functions returned and we were finished, then I could have freed that memory. And I just didn't quite get it. So I didn't. I feel like it's really, I have so much like empathy for Shana. I just think it's really cute. The kind of stuff I was doing, just like abominable code. Yeah.
It's lovely though. That's like, that's the reaction we want from old code. I feel like you in like yourself in university gets a freer pass compared to like your industry self. I feel like I'd be much happier looking back at like my university code, whereas like, if I look back at like, and then my first job code, I'd be like, what were you doing?
That's true.
Like you were paid for that code. Like...
yeah, that's really interesting. Like I want to say, I haven't actually gone back and looked at my old code that I wrote for work, but I'm sure, I want to say like the code that actually got into the the stuff, like the shipped stuff, was probably fine.
Yeah.
Thanks to
you would hope you had teams like reviewing it and helping growth and
exactly. And probably I did. Like I had a lot of really awesome people that I worked with on the team who were really patient with this, like, you know, person who came from college being like, I wasn't really good at C++ during college. Now I want to do it professionally. Like,
well, that's what you hire new grads for, right?
Yeah, exactly. You gotta learn and grow. So yeah, I want to say, like, I believe that it's probably acceptable at least. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't even know how to get to that stuff now, because Microsoft's like, when I first started and was writing that code, like, this is like insider knowledge. Microsoft's build system was like very different than what we use now. We like weren't like storing our code in Git, and we had our own proprietary build system that was very strange. So now that's all changed. And it was in the Windows. It was actually code that was written like in the Windows code base. So it was written as part of the Windows operating system, which was just wild. The amount of code that all got built together every single day as part of the operating system. Totally wild. It was like
the talk when Windows moved to Git, that was like, y'all published like a lot of info on that, right?
Yeah, it was a big deal. I wish I had like a nice link that I could send you.
I felt it was in TechCrunch. It was that big a deal.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge, and it was a huge internal thing. It was just funny to see the reactions too. This is more insider knowledge, but there's this like super secret Windows developer spoilers. There's like this huge mailing list.
Right.
I forget what it was called. I think WDG Random. That was what it's called. Nice. It doesn't exist anymore. So, but people would like, it's just a million people on this DL, and you would like just see wild reactions from people all over the company, because they would just email like anything they wanted.
It was just truly a randoms in like the random Slack channel, but it was a mailing list.
Yeah, and it was huge. Yeah, because it's from like the ye old days.
Imagine getting your like company's random Slack channel in your inbox. That's wild.
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, obviously everyone had like rules,
filters.
Like, totally filtered.
It's funny that we got onto this. I remember like it was around the time when this like moving to Windows thing was announced, and I think I was at Git. What is GitHub's conference? It's about Git merge. So like GitHub holds this conference that's just about Git. It's not about GitHub. It's about the Git project. They host it, but like it's all the Git people. And I remember being there, and a bunch of Windows folks who were like working on the port had been like there to talk about the fact that they were like doing that move. And I was talking to Edward Thompson, who is one of the maintainers of libgit 2, and at the time worked at Microsoft. Now he's back at GitHub. And they wanted to ask him a question, and they had bought like this binder of paper with them, and it was basically the branching strategy for Windows that like eventually they published and spoke about. But like at the time they were still working the branching strategy out, and they were just like, yeah, this is what we're thinking. And it was like a significant amount of paper just for the like how to get all of the code for the entire Windows operating system and deal with the branching of it. It was like, I struggle with the Git flow, like just for like myself and my own dev branch, let alone like for tens of thousands of devs working on the Windows operating system.
Yeah, it was totally crazy. Like I look back on those days very fondly, but I remember like when I first joined the company, I was like, what? This is
they're letting me write for Windows. What?
Yeah, exactly. The code I'm writing, like is gonna ship onto every computer. Like I don't know about that.
So cool there.
Like that's such a good idea. And it was crazy because it was just not very. What's the right word? It wasn't split up very well. Like I want to use the word containerized, but it has nothing to do with containers. It's just componentized, like
compartmentalized. I guess.
It just wasn't very well. Like the dependencies were all. It was all one big thing, and the dependencies weren't.
It's funny we throw away like web services land. We talk about like monoliths and microservices and whatever, but like an operating system is like a whole different conceptualization of the word monolith, right? Like
and lots of things about an operating system have to be monolithic. If you get low enough, like it just makes sense. Like you just has to be to work fast and to work well. But that had like grown and grown and grown. Like the code I was writing should not have been part of that monolith, but it was when I first started at the company.
Yeah.
And it was actually really cool to like be a dev, a new grad dev, like figuring everything out while Microsoft was like totally changing the way it was doing its source control strategy and its build strategy for the Windows operating system. It was wild and crazy. Yeah, and awesome. And it's much better now.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess just like a kind of point to prove for that is the fact that I guess they managed to untangle that enough to work out how to slide Linux in there somewhere. Like you can like, there's a whole new kernel running around in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So a lot of that work, I don't know if this is interesting or like, I'm pretty sure it's fine
if it's not, I'm sure someone will tell us in chat. Tell us in the chat. Please. That's what we're here for.
We're on a total tangent. So everyone like hated Windows 8 and like there were like very valid UX reasons for that. But a lot of that work behind the scenes of compartmentalizing and componentizing Windows and setting us up for success to be able to do the great stuff we're doing now happened as part of Windows 8. And it was just like a really cool, I was not at the company quite yet at that point, but things were getting kicked off and all these big changes in the operating system were happening behind the scenes. And it was really cool to see people talking about it and getting excited about it. And then like the old curmudgeons being like, I don't want to learn Git. I like what we have.
I can only imagine. God, that was a nightmare. But it's funny how you say that like this was like really important work that was like necessary for the future of Windows, and it was like a release that was less popular with consumers, and it's like But at
Microsoft, we were thrilled. Like people who worked on the operating system were like, I don't care. Like I'm sorry the UX sucks. Like that actually like no, like I shouldn't say that they didn't care. Like they very much like, we care.
But there was like a priority. And I guess that's where I was like gonna go with it, that like when you do have, like regular like releases on like every 3 or 4 years or whatever, like I guess there is times where you just say like, hey, this is like the cleaning up shop release and we're focused on these priorities and like some other things may not be as flashy as people want, and that's fine.
Totally. And like people talk about like, I don't know if people say this outside of Microsoft, but like TikTok of like Windows releases, which it's not a thing anymore.
I've definitely heard this.
Like we would be like good release, bad release, and I don't know. I'm just speaking like this is not official Microsoft.
Isn't the meme? It's like every odd number is a bad one or something.
Yeah, exactly. This is just me, but from what I've seen of how things used to happen, and I just got glimpses into it, but like it really was like a bad release would be like, hey, we put a ton of work into like doing stuff like behind the scenes, like revolutionary changes,
which you'll see pay off next time. Like
exactly, and then next time they had a lot more time to spend on like the bug fixes, like tuning it up, getting it right, and then that would be the next release.
Which totally makes sense. But like I guess when the release cycle is like that large, you have to deal with that bad, quote unquote, bad release for a little bit longer than maybe you'd want to. But
yeah, absolutely. It's really funny. Sorry, this is totally tangential. We're not talking about.
I think this is interesting. I mean, I imagine folks are very interested to hear about how Windows gets made. I think that's cool. I mean, our viewers have gone up since we started talking about this, so I think that's
awesome. Fine. That's got to be a good sign, then, right? Anyway, I had a Vista like as my first computer that was like all mine, that lived in my bedroom, that I got to mess around with.
I miss those gummy buttons.
I know. I actually thought it was so cute. Like I loved Vista. But Vista was like the least popular like Microsoft Windows release ever. And just I had like done a little bit of digging because I was interested, because my experience on Vista was fine. It was good. Like I liked it. And then obviously
security policy stuff being the nightmare I had, but that was mostly because I was trying to play a lot of LAN games and it was like, never let me do anything. Like, yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, I remember that. LAN. Anyway, so even back then, like there was like the TikTok was happening. So like Vista was like a bad release, and like Microsoft doesn't stop fixing things. Like, so Vista like got better throughout the time Vista existed until you got to like Windows 7. So it makes sense. Like a lot of people after Vista had been released for like a couple years, like a bunch of stuff was getting shipped to it and fixing it. And so it makes sense. Lots of people actually did, like me, actually have a great experience on their Vista machines.
Yeah, and it's like relatively rare, especially like the bulk of Windows users, like realistically, are not upgrading straight away, right? Like, especially like all of the enterprises, whatever, who are still somehow on XP are like a good like paid to this, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally.
Should we jump back into the code?
I was trying to think. I'm looking at my list. What are the other things I wanted to mention? Yes, we talked about malloc. Okay, we talked a little bit about all that good stuff. The other thing I wanted to show, that this is actually kind of boring, but I put it on my list, so let's say it. Was my like how I organized my code. It's so bad.
We don't need folders. Flat hierarchy is fine. You do it all with file names.
Just everything in one folder. Like all my binary files are in here.
Actually, you know what? Let me like, to make you feel a little bit better about this. I was doing a repo walkthrough on Monday, showing people things they could contribute to, and like, I know there are other folders in this. Let me quickly do a screenshot of this. This is like, if you want to feel better, this is the Git project, right? So here we go. This is their GitHub. There's some folders here, but I want to get to the README now. Excuse me whilst I go on a scrolling tour.
Yes.
Right? Like, so I don't think you should worry, because I'm still going. This is still going on. Like, and as far as I can tell, this is like every command, like every user level command, the porcelain, just in the top level directory. Like, why? It's all a porcelain. Put it in the, like, why isn't that somewhere?
That's
there you go.
That's
I wouldn't worry.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I did. And then I remember the first time I like saw some like real project code from like other projects, or like, I was like trying to like do stuff with JavaScript, which was still a disaster. I thought about pulling out like an old JavaScript project from college, and I was like, I'd just be like, I don't know.
If you are interested in seeing that, we did that this morning with Flaky, with the old Firefox OS one. And the interesting thing about that, which probably isn't the case for you with this, is that like JavaScript is like completely changed since then. As in like there's new standards, so libraries used are completely irrelevant, and like it's just like the JavaScript you wrote then wouldn't have even remotely looked like what it does now. I think it's interesting that we're doing C, because like this code is, as you compiled it and ran it, like it's
exactly
still valid code, right?
Yeah, and interestingly, so I had a C++ project as well that I could access, and was actually more interesting, and it was visual, and it was like, I don't know if you guys know what the Game of Life is, but it was like an implementation of the Game of Life where you could play around with it, change stuff, and I couldn't get it to compile anymore. It used like a library that had gone from being like free and open source to being no longer free and open source.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah, I feel like there's a better way of saying that.
Proprietary?
Proprietary, yes. Thank you. So I was so sad. I was like, well, I guess I could like pay for it and then put in the effort to get it building, but no.
That is the beauty of C, that I guess like C is C, and it will continue to be C, and it will work.
Exactly. And that's why I think C, like, even if you aren't like necessarily passionate about C or doing some of the stuff in C, like working really low level, like I think it's still really important to be like literate in C, because there are so many really old projects and open source stuff. C is so important to the open source community. So there's so many projects in C available on GitHub and open source, that it's like, it's still very relevant despite not being the most popular language in the world.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So file organization. So hit that. How would you organize this project? Like, is there like, I guess we do like, like library and source and binary. And
that's I think the very obvious thing I could have done was, and should have done, was have my at least have my binary files, which are very nicely green here, separated into a different folder. And that would have been like as easy as changing stuff in my make file here.
Because you have further down that you have the output files, right? Which I guess would be.
Yeah, exactly. So this is how I build all those output files, and I would have just added something in here. I'm not going to remember off the top of my head what, but you're like, it's going to be like -O and then the path for it. So yeah, I would have done that and then put all these binaries in a different folder too, just to clean it up because this is ugly. And then another very reasonable thing I would have done is to split up my C files and my header files so that, as I was saying, if a new person was coming into this code base, they could just go check out the header files to understand what kind of stuff is available and read those comments that definitely would have been in the header files.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent. Yeah, which then I guess kind of serves like a map of like, I guess almost like API, like the API reference, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. It serves as like an informal API reference. Cool. Yeah. I think those are the big things. I already talked about global variables, right? I guess
we spoke about that with the file name. So the file name was the big global variable crime.
It was a very big crime. There's like there's some very valid uses. Oh yeah, this is the file. I had it open for a reason. This is a very valid use of global variables. So I'm defining these static things that I want to save. They're never going to change. I'm going to reference later all over the place. There's nicer ways of doing this in other languages, but this is the C way of doing it, and it's still good. We should still do this.
What's interesting about this is like a lot of these are like, there's 0 and -1, and like you could have put those like just in as numbers wherever you were using them, I guess. But like this is like a descriptive for what they're actually doing, which is like good, nice practice.
Yeah, it's a good practice that I actually did. So. Good job, me. Yeah, I did something good. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's my list of things
That's perfect. That's great. And that's right on time for us to start.
Oh, good. Great. I love it.
So yeah, thank you for walking us through that. That was super cool. It's been a very C-heavy day. It's nice. We've had a lot of Ruby days, and I feel like today we've gone down the stack a little, down a low level. So is there any if people want to ask you any questions or like find you out in the world, what's the best place to send them to?
Yeah, probably the best place is Twitter. I don't do a lot of Twittering, but just I will respond and stuff if you DM me or have questions or want to.
That's just your name, right?
That's just my name. Yep, Shana Matthews. So I'm on there a little bit, mostly just for tech stuff. So I'm happy to hear from folks.
Drop out this. It's so weird how this makes things flicker. Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes, no problem.
I will do the backstage shuffle now and do my outro. So thank you so much for being here.
Enjoy
the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye.
So thanks again to Shana. That was awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. I love the looking at the old code thing. I'm so glad we accidentally invented this segment the other day. Thank you all the viewers for being there. This is our last show for today. We are back tomorrow. And what is going on tomorrow? I hear you ask. Well, let me walk you through the schedule. You can find the schedule yourself at twitch.tv/raisdevs/schedule. And there's a little bit of a sample of what's coming up. Tomorrow, I believe, we're going back to a Ruby day. I think it's Ruby day. Possibly. It might be a mixed day. Let me quickly check a project. So in the morning, we've got Rain Leander from Packet Host. Rain is going to be telling us a little bit about their developer journey, how they ended up doing what they're doing. And we're also going to be looking at a really cool project. I think it's really cool anyway, called the Packet Host Standards. And the Packet Host Standards is a repository that Packet Host have put public to set an example for what public-facing repository should look like. So if you're at a company and you're thinking about open sourcing something or throwing something up on GitHub, the Packet Host Standards repository is like a great resource for seeing what kind of things you should have in that repository, how you should structure that repository for public use, that kind of thing. So Rain is going to walk us through that repository tomorrow and show us how that works and what those best practices are. So if you're thinking about being a maintainer, it's a super great time to come along. It's going to be a lot of fun. After that, we've got Ender Thielen, who is at Red Hat. And Ender is going to be talking to us about a project they contribute to that they're a maintainer of called GraphBack. So you might have heard of GraphQL. That's kind of like new query language, just new thing in API land. GraphBack is a really nice server and client solution for GraphQL. And Ender is going to walk us through two things actually, which is super cool. First of all, we're going to introduce the project. And then Ender is going to walk us through a pull request on that project, and Ender's going to review it live on the show. So you're going to get to see inside the maintainer's head what they think about when they're reviewing your Hacktoberfest pull requests and what they think is a good PR and how that code gets reviewed and merged. So that's going to be super cool. And then we'll also kind of round that out with how you can contribute to GraphBack as well, which is a Hacktoberfest opted-in project. So that's going to be super neat. And I said that was Ruby. I lied. GraphBack is TypeScript. So if you're into JavaScript, TypeScript land, Graphback, that is going to be a great one for you. That's our like middle of the day slot tomorrow. And then our final slot of the day tomorrow is with Chris Hunt, who I do believe is in the chat. I can't tell you exactly what Chris is doing yet because Chris owes me an email. Chris, you've got to choose from the 3 options you gave you. But we're either going to be doing some old code review, or Chris is going to be walking us through a project that he's been working on. And that's going to be hosted by John tomorrow. So our founder, John Britton. So that will be a Ruby show, I believe. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. That's our late show, 10-year-old project time. Yes, Chris, we love to see it. So yeah, that'll be our last show tomorrow. It'll be John and Chris hanging out doing some Ruby, which will be a lot of fun. Question from It Is My Fault. Do we have a Java day or a Python day? That is a great question. I'm seeing a lot of JavaScript. I'm going to be honest with you. We managed to do the first half of the month almost entirely with Ruby people, and now it looks like we're getting to the JavaScript storm. But I will line up some Java and Python people for you, so plenty of guest slots. And also we have a couple of days where it's just y'all and me. So Monday, so the 12th next week, we're into next week. Monday, it's just going to be me hanging out with you. So last week we did issue safari. So we looked around what projects had opted into Hacktoberfest, and we had to look at some of the issues that were available. And we focused particularly on C and Go on Monday because we had a lot of viewers looking for C and Go projects. So maybe It Is My Fault we'll focus on some Java and Python on next Monday. That sounds like fun. We can do that. And then a brief peek into next week. Later on Monday, I'm going to be joined by Ethan Arrowwood, who is I think he's an engineer at Microsoft. Is he still at Microsoft? I think he's at Microsoft. But he also is a contributor to Fastify, which is a Node.js web framework. And we'll be talking about that. Tuesday is a super exciting show. That's when Dev2, which is a wonderful developer kind of blogging community, Dev2 take over our channel and it becomes their channel for the day. So Dev2 are going to be taking over to work on Forum, the platform that powers Dev2. Last week they did accessibility. I believe this week they're doing design. So that'll be on the 13th of October, Dev2's channel, Dev2's takeover. And then the 14th is accidentally Twilio Day. We've got Layla Porter in the morning and Lizzie Siegel on the last show in this show. And in between, me and Wilhelm are going to kick back and hopefully look at some code then. And then it's the last day that week. It's a couple more days, but I'll run through those later on next week. So that's our schedule for next week. You can find that at twitch.tv RaiseDev schedule. Right now it's showing the schedule for tomorrow. I will update it over the weekend to show the schedule for next week. If you have any questions that you'd like us to answer on the show, say you've got a contribution that you're stuck with, or an issue that you're working on that you need some advice on, you can submit those to us at raise.dev Hacktoberfest. And if you want a video walking through how to do that, go to our Twitch page, go to the videos, and you'll find a lovely highlight there of me doing that for you. And then we will match that with a guest and get you the help you need. And a second from final thing, if you're looking to level up your developer career, you can find us at raise.dev. We will match you with some of our wonderful coaches who will get you the experience you need for your next job, your first developer job, your next promotion, whatever it is you're looking to do in your developer career. We want to help you with that. And you go there and sign up for free at raise.dev. And now the last thing, if you want notifications when we're next live, you can go to our Twitch page, hit follow, and then there's a little bell you have to hit. They're two separate things. So hit the heart and then hit the bell, and that will give you notifications whenever we go live. And you can also follow us on Twitter at RaiseDevs, where we will tweet regularly. We put out a poll yesterday asking how often people wanted us to tweet about the show, and people asked for before every show. So you will find out 3 times a day when we're going live, so you can keep up with things and join if you want to. So finally, that's everything from me. Thank you again all so much for being here. If you're joining us tomorrow, I will see you then. Otherwise, hopefully see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your evening, your weekends. We're not streaming on the weekend. No weekend streams. Go outside. Go to the park. No open source. But we'll see you some point on the show. So thank you all very much for being here. Have a wonderful night. Catch you at the next one.